All right, here we go, guys. Here we go. All right, we're good. We are going. Welcome, welcome. This is 2026, technically our first show for the year, but it's not the Homeless Left, the normal show. This is our top censored news of the week. We were kind of debating whether to do top censored news or not, but so much has been going on since the start of the year. We had to jump in here and give you guys something here. But just so you guys know, we will be officially back with our twice a week show, Tuesdays and Thursdays, starting next week, the 13th. And we're excited to bring you guys some brand new content and just, do another season for you. I think it's our kind of our fourth year doing it. We're about to hit that mark. Well, I guess we're about to hit the third year mark, but it's our fourth season that we're going to be starting next week. So thank you to everybody that's been part of the journey we've gone through to getting to this point we are now. So we really, really appreciate all you and how the channels have grown and how engagement has grown, and just giving us a voice within the chaos of social media and independent media and the mainstream propaganda machines that are here to divide and conquer us and confuse us and keep us divided and all that stuff. And so it's a constant battle, as you guys know, to do this and bring the show to you. So that's why we are excited about this next year. Now, it didn't start off so good right off the bat. So we have some stories that broke right away when we were on break, as you guys know. So we'll get into some of that. We're calling these top censored news of the week. And we're going to get to that in just a moment here, but I just want to make sure you guys know where we are now. And again, we generally aren't on Friday, so this is a kind of a special deal, but generally we'll do the top censored news in our Thursday show. But today, we're going to cover this, the three top stories that the mainstream media refuses to cover, or if they do cover it, they do it in a very dishonest or sloppy way. It's always on purpose. That's kind of our little motto there. But let me make sure you guys are coming into us in the right areas. Making sure we're good on Rumble, at the Homeless Left on Rumble. If you guys haven't discovered us there yet, that's been our our home base. I think we are rocking and rolling now. And as usual, our engagement will probably pick up as we go, but we won't be. This isn't our normal 4-hour show today, guys. We're going to be giving you guys the top 3 stories, and we'll take a little time with them, but it won't be too much time. But yeah, these are important stories. So I'll say this. So what we do here, we do deal with censorship. We deal with shadow banning. You guys know that battle, and we all deal. Everybody in this space has to deal with this. And when we're talking about fighting the war machine, fighting anything to do with challenging Israel, anything to do with pharma. I mean, these are things that they come back and get us in different ways. There's different ways they can suppress us. So it takes you guys, it takes us to just be louder, be stronger, and it's okay. The ups and downs, we deal with it. And if we start getting strikes and terminations, then fine, we'll start another channel, or we'll figure out a new way to come at you guys. But it's not about the Homeless Left. It's about all of us, but it's all about all of us. It's not about me. It's not about so we do this as a team, as a community. You guys know we like to, we appreciate all of our guests and co-hosts and guest co-hosts. And, Craig Pasta has been awesome. And obviously, Jay Scott, these guys have been with us the whole way. Leslie's been amazing coming in and talking with you guys. So we're going to continue having that type of, community vibe to what we do. And I want to be clear, community is different than tribe. This is not a tribe. It's a community. What is the difference between a tribe and a community? A tribe has elements of it where you have to check boxes to get in the door. A tribe usually has a leader or has a leader staff, and that those leaders, you're not allowed to challenge them, right? You're not allowed to ask questions. You have to stay in line. A tribe is usually going against another tribe, or tribes. And so there's a membership card that in order to hold it, you have to do certain things. So the difference between that and what we do as a community is we don't have a membership card. We don't have boxes you have to check to get in the door. And of course, as far as challenging goes, we're all about challenging. So we like questions being asked. We don't shame people for asking questions. We like to relook at stuff. If we don't have enough information on something or something new comes to light, we'll relook at it and we'll change our mind on stuff. So, and the other thing is you don't have to check in with us to get your opinion before you get the emotion that's approved for whatever incident that's going on, whatever big story broke. You don't have to check in with us. You can have your own opinion. That's how it goes. That's a community versus tribe. So that's the best way we can kind of explain it to you, because I've had people ask about that. Well, what is the difference? Community is good, right? Yes, absolutely. We can't do this by ourselves. That's the point. We're not individuals, 6 feet apart from each other. We're going to kill each other, put 5-6 masks on because we're dangerous from each other. No. So collectivism is good as long as we try and keep our individual voices and don't make rules for each other as far as to be part of a club. So that's the difference. So let's make sure we understand that going forward. And when we talk about community, we know there's a difference between that and tribe. So we are non-tribal. Homeless Left is a non-tribal entity, non-tribal approach to news. And really, frankly, it's a non-tribal approach to life. Okay, let's go ahead and get started on Top Censored News. I'm just going to check our tech and make sure we are good. And in the meantime, if you guys, we did have a chance to do a little Garland Nixon show. You want to go check that out. That was, I think, 2 days ago. Just came off of a Truthwire show with Fiorella. So you guys want to check that out. We also had Danny Shaw in discussing Venezuela, which was awesome. So you guys want to go check that out. And I should have a RT, been going on RT discussing Venezuela. So just keep posted on my next appearance with them. You can check on my Twitter, Homeless Left, Matt Weinglass on Twitter. And okay, let me check the settings. Okay, we're going to do a little setting adjustment. And I think we should be good for Top Censored News of the Week. Okay, let's go ahead and do it. Uncanceled Comedy Collective presents Top Censored News of the Year. It's Top Censored News of the year. Wait, what, did we do that right? Let me do that again. That was the wrong one. Oh my gosh, I put in the wrong intro. Okay, let's try that again so we can get it for the edit. Here we go. Uncanceled Comedy Collective presents Top Censored News of the Week. It's Top Censored News of the Week. We're bringing you the stories the mainstream media just refuses to cover. If they do cover them, they always do it in a very dishonest or sloppy way, and it's always on purpose. All right, to start the year off, let's see the first story that the mainstream is intentionally, and I say that, I emphasize intentionally, getting wrong. Coming in at number 3, Venezuela's Cartel de las Soles, which officially does not exist, according to the New York Times, as of a few days ago, was actually created by the CIA in the 1980s. Wait, what? Well, that's the part they're not telling you, but let's go ahead and piece this together from the top. We saw this break. Obviously, this was the big story when they went and arrested, well, I would have to say, kidnapped sitting President Nicolas Maduro on January 3rd. And Maria Coronavirus Machado says that Maduro's capture will go down in history as a day justice defeated tyranny. So this entire setup became a Hollywood movie. Trump even talked about how he was watching this on TV like it was a TV show. So he said this, and a lot of stuff Trump's been saying about this sounds like he is being absolutely point blank telling us the quiet part out loud. And that's good, because we didn't get that with Iraq at all. You weren't allowed to talk about the oil in Iraq when we were going in there and killing 1 million Iraqis back in 2003 under Bush and Cheney's regime. But here we are hearing things exactly the way they want it to sound. But make no mistake, the theater piece is the essential part. It's this Top Gun, where the good guys getting the bad guys. Maria, and this is, her name is actually Maria Corina Machado. We call her Maria Coronavirus Machado, Nobel Peace Prize, talking about that this is the justice defeated tyranny this day. And of course, CBS Evening News, their new anchor, he's a complete ditz. This guy, Tony, I mean, I can't even pronounce his last name. This guy, complete idiot on CBS. Garland Nixon calls it ZBS now, because we know it's owned by Zionist Larry Ellison. So he asked the Venezuelan opposition leader, do you think Trump and the U.S. have done enough as of today to bring about the freedom and democracy you're talking about? Well, they certainly have done much more than anybody thought was possible. As I said, January 3rd will go down in history as the day justice defeated tyranny. What people said it was impossible to achieve, it in a flawless operation. This is huge. Well, what does she mean by flawless operation? That's a weird thing to say. Well, CNN's going to back it up and show you, how amazing, what an amazing job they did. We're basically watching Top Gun 3 happen here. Or is it Top Gun 4? Because Top Gun 3 was the bombing of Iranian apparent nuclear facilities. So this will be part 4 of that series. Here we go. Take it away, CNN and Tom Cruise-ish people.
This news is being received in Iran. How's it being received in Russia? How's it being received in China?
All three, predictably, will deplore this kind of activity publicly. Privately, they will be impressed with the military capability here. I would argue none of those three militaries could have executed an operation like this. And again, we tend to just breeze by this. But the idea of finding, fixing, kidnapping, taking him out alive with his wife, no casualties on the side of the U.S., that's an extraordinary military operation. So I think while there will be a lot of public condemnation of the United States, predictably from those three nations, privately they'll be saying to themselves, that's a very capable military. That's not a bad thought to pop up in Beijing, Moscow, and Tehran these days.
So privately, they're going to be applauding this. That's their spin. That's their spin. But we know this is breaking every single international law imaginable. You can't just going in and invading another country. This is an all-out assault. We know that over 100 people were murdered on the Venezuelan side. We know that Maduro's inside team was basically executed right in broad daylight. And then you got all these other civilian casualties. They're just bombing around. We knew that there was a woman, this elderly woman, they just murder her right in her house. So the idea that, we shouldn't be shocked about CNN gloating about this, but yeah, don't think for a second you have, any pushback because again, CNN was supposed to be that, right? What didn't you guys remember the Trump fighting Trump and battling Trump? You would think that CNN would have a little bit more, hey, wait a minute, you can't just go in and do that. Well, no, they like to gloat about it. And they're saying that if you're not hearing gloating from or praise, if you're not hearing praise from other countries, it's because they're doing it in secret. So that's their spin right there. And here we are with Rubio just cracking down on our entitlement and what we have the right to do. We can break any law we want.
Need to take over the Venezuelan oil industry.
Well, we don't need to. First of all, let me go back up. We don't need Venezuela's oil. We have plenty of oil in the United States. What we're not going to allow is for the oil industry in Venezuela to be controlled by adversaries of the United States. You have to understand, why does China need their oil? Why does Russia need their oil? Why does Iran need their oil? They're not even in this continent. This is the Western Hemisphere. This is where we live. And we're not going to allow the Western Hemisphere to be a base of operation for adversaries, competitors, and rivals of the United States.
So they're saying this out loud. And be clear about this. This isn't about just that China and Russia aren't allowed to have the oil. We're allowed to have it. We're marking our territory on the entire Western Hemisphere, which is insane, right? That's completely nut jobby insane. But the fact that it's not just stealing it from Venezuela, the attempt to prevent Russia and China from having oil contracts as well. It's specifically about them not doing it with the petrodollar. That's really what we're talking about here. So there is definitely a sense of urgency that we need to do this at all costs, because the less amount of petrodollar being exchanged with other countries, which they're not doing anymore. They used to do that for decades. We insisted on it since Nixon and Henry Kissinger made a deal with Saudi Arabia back in the 70s. Said we're going to force the petrodollar as oil exchange, the only currency for oil exchange, and now that's not working anymore. So that's what this really is about. But you got to spin it like this entitlement, which Rubio's really good at doing. And if you're watching this, and you don't just have to be watching Fox News. You can be watching Meet the Press. This is an NBC show, and he's telling the audience of NBC, this is our right to protect this oil, and that it rightfully belongs to us and not China and Russia. Okay, so we've set the scene, right? We've set the table for this entitlement. We are the courageous heroes coming in to save the day for the Western Hemisphere. Okay, so now how is the media spinning as far as how Venezuelans are responding to this? Now it's going to get a little interesting. So what they did deliberately is they put out footage from other sources, other timelines, interviewing people from different parts of the world, particularly in Miami. So you got the reactions from Venezuelans who are not actually in Venezuela. And then you saw footage like this do the rounds, which was this one particularly. I'll put this up so you guys can see this. This footage was going around as cheers and celebrations going on in Caracas after we kidnapped their leader. Now, if you look closely at this footage and you figure out the timestamp on this, it turns out this was from 2019. So the fact that mainstream media is putting this out there and saying that the Venezuelan people are just loving the fact that a foreign entity came in and kidnapped their president, and that they like this idea is absolutely insane. And there's some people that got this right away and understood this. This was from Jake GTV, who said he went down the rabbit hole to find actual Venezuelans in Venezuela celebrating. The same 8 videos, and we just played you one of them, has been circulating, celebrating in Chile, Madrid, Panama, Florida, and New York City, come all to search, along with hundreds of pro-Trump MAGA pushing the narratives that all Venezuelans are celebrating while pushing videos from old protesters. That's what we just saw, an old celebration. And also there were AI-generated slop as well. So when I watched all the news pieces where the reporters repeat the same line, people are FaceTiming their families in Venezuela who are also celebrating, or that many families are celebrating their return to Venezuela when that wasn't possible nor true, along with thousands of parroting accounts saying the same thing. So only lefties are pushing the narrative that they're not liberated. How privileged are you to question that? I did manage, however, to find about 10 videos showing them protesting in their own country, usually not translated for American consumption. Here is one of those videos.
We don't want them to impose a Yankee government on us. We are free and sovereign. We are a people with guarantees in the Bolivarian Constitution. We are a free people, free and sovereign. Donald Trump is not going to take our oil. Rubio is not going to govern us. We have a president and a vice president who will assume for now, but our president is Nicolas Maduro.
Here is the great motorized force of Caracas. We took to the streets of Caracas to tell the world to raise their voice about the kidnapping of our president. And we won him back, damn it. Long live the homeland, and long live Maduro.
So what's happening here? It's not just the Chavistas that are in the street. There's a principle notion, whether you like Maduro or not, that you stand with the people of your own country and you say you cannot. We refuse to have an outside entity, particularly the U.S. empire, which is the worst entity. You look at our track record for any other country we went to bring democracy to, we failed every one. We literally have a 0% success rate at fixing other people's countries. So the fact that you have the opposition and Chavistas in the streets together, which is happening there, by the way, and you're not seeing that on mainstream, that part's important. And they're going to be standing with this through till the end. They want Maduro back. And they're not backing down. And the protests continue. They continue right now. In fact, we just got another one, and I'm going to put this one up here, and then we'll get to the court stuff because that part's really important here. This is, let's see, we got, this is an actual protest that happened 2 days after the kidnapping. And this is, free Maduro, free Maduro. And this gathering is all Venezuelans. And I say, I don't mean 100% of them in the street. What I'm saying is it's a gathering of multiple entities, not just Chavistas. We're talking about opposition and Chavistas together in the streets saying free our leader. Is that something that we would do on our home front? Would we take to the streets if an outside entity came in and kidnapped Donald Trump? Would we do that? Do we have the principle to do that? Obviously, Trump voters would do that, but would we do it for the same reason that Venezuelans are doing it? It's not partisan for them. It's not partisan for them. It's principle. And so this is the thing we miss here in this country. We miss principle. We miss it all the time. We don't seem to have principle ever. We only have partisanship. So you'd have half the country saying, bring us our president back. And you have the other half saying, good riddance. And because we don't understand how principle works, we assume that other people don't understand either. So the last thing we would even think, we'd even consider is that opposition people in Venezuela would even consider being in the street for their president. It wouldn't even cross our mind because we don't think that way. So we assume other people don't think that way either, but they do. And that's going to be the biggest thing, that the biggest factor in whether or not we can pull off what Trump wants to pull off or not, is do we understand the mind of a Venezuelan? Do we understand the mind of a Chavista? Do we understand the principles of how they they behave and conduct themselves, and the mantra of Chavistas from when it was originated by Hugo Chavez, and how they're going to stick by their guns throughout the next several weeks. So we'll come back to that in a second, but let's do the court stuff because, well, this is important. Actually, you know what? CNN put this poll out, and I think this is important. CNN's poll, they're telling us how people feel about Maduro. And, this really goes to show you the power of the mainstream media narrative and the fact that they're rooting it on. Even CNN and MSNBC are rooting on the takedown of a dictator. And this is how people respond to that.
Military ousting Maduro. Pre-ousting, what you saw was the clear plurality of Americans opposed at 47%, just 21% support. Come over to this side of the screen. After the ousting, look at that. The support through the roof. Now we're talking about 37%, well within the margin of error right here of the opposition, 38%. It turns out Americans like what they deem to be successful foreign policy operations.
It turns out Americans like to be entertained and like to grab a bowl of popcorn and cheer at the Top Gun attack in the latest in the franchise, which is what happened on the 3rd. And so that's where you're getting the increase of support. It's not that Americans, and I'm not bashing Americans. I'm saying that's how we're wired. We turn on the TV. How do we understand? Do we understand geopolitics in a general sense? No, we don't. Of course we don't. We don't understand these things. We are told Maduro is a dictator, therefore I hate him. Therefore, if we can capture him and we can do it in a very slick Hollywood theatrical way, then I'm for it. And you're seeing liberals doing this too. They're coming out. People that hate Trump are saying, yeah, you know what? I'm really glad we got Maduro. I don't really like the way Trump behaves, and I hate his tweeting, and I hate all his his posturizing and all his bullshit. But hey, it's a good thing we got that guy, right? Well, okay. So where are we? So who's responsible for doing that? Well, obviously the mainstream media are responsible. And it's funny that they're showing us the poll as if they're this outside, as if CNN's this outside entity, just saying, oh, we're going to do a poll. No, you are actively participating in steering the opinions of the people that show up in these numbers. So that's what we're seeing there. Okay, so the court case itself. All right, when we look at the charges, right? So the charges against Maduro, we had two big ones. We had the drug cartel that they claimed he ran starting in 1999 when Maduro came into office as vice president to Chavez, 98-99. And that's when they say the Cartel de las Soles was formed. That's what instigated the bounty on his head. That's what instigated it. We have that they had proof that Maduro started this cartel that brought in all of these drugs, all this cocaine into the U.S. That was their justification. Now that he's in court, and the weapons charge is also pretty ridiculous. It's having machine guns. Oh, wow. A president of a state with a military has weapons. Ooh, what a horrible crime to have committed. Then I guess every president of every state has committed this crime with various weapons, not just machine guns, but with bombs and with drones and with all sorts of missiles and anything. So that's a ridiculous charge. But the drug charge. So what happened with that? What happened with the drug charge? Well, believe it or not, they didn't really have a leg to stand on, did they? And immediately after his initial plea, New York Times was forced to have to report this. The Justice Department drops its claims that Venezuela's Cartel de las Soles is an actual group. Really? So you made the whole thing up now, did you? Did you do that? Did you just create it all from scratch? No, there was no cartel that Maduro was part of forming in 1999. None of that happened? Okay. Well, thanks for telling us. That means the bounty on his head then becomes a moot point, right? Nobody gets that. Nobody gets to cash in on that. But so why would you make that up out of thin air? That's weird. I'm sure the New York Times will get into more of that, of where it actually came from. But no, unfortunately, and you guys probably could have guessed, the New York Times does not get into where it came from. They just say it doesn't exist and they move on. Well, let's look at, so Lord Bebo breaks this down, the dirty trick. So, right, this is what you call the bait and switch. It's the dirty plan by Rubio. It's a dirty trick. So this is how it worked. 1, U.S. invents a new bad cartel. Cartel de las Soles. 2, U.S. declares Maduro ahead of the drug trafficking of the Cartel de las Soles. Okay. 3, well, U.S. designates the cartel as a terrorist organization. 4, Maduro is now a terrorist. So you see how that works? Now he's a terrorist. So you fabricated a thing, you make him a terrorist. There's your $50 million bounty. 5, military can now act against terrorists without congressional approval. There you go. 6, Maduro gets grabbed, kidnapped. I would say, Lord Bebo, you got to change that to kidnapped by the military quickly. 7, for the actual trial, the U.S. drops the whole Cartel de los Soles Act and admits it does not even exist. And this allowed number 8 to get Maduro without asking Congress for approval. Now, Lord Bebo, I have to tell you, you're missing number 9, which might be the most important one, which Max Blumenthal brings up the most important part of the plan is the ninth one. Number nine. Here is the 1993 60 Minutes report on how the CIA recruited a Venezuelan military officer, General Ramon Guillen de Villa, to help them ship 22 tons of cocaine into American cities. The Cartel of the Suns, Cartel de las Soles, disappeared once it lost its utility to the CIA and was resurrected by the U.S. government when it began targeting Venezuela. So this report on 60 Minutes, we'll play a clip of it for you right now, says that this actually was created, this cartel was created in the 1980s Reagan era. So the 1999 story is fabricated, but the cartel is not far fabricated. It's real. And the CIA are the real terrorists who brought the cocaine into our country. So what are we actually doing in Caracas right now? What the hell are we doing? Here is the old clip from when I guess you would say CBS used to be an actually good news channel once in a while, because they weren't owned by Zionists at that time. Okay, here we go. Here we go. We might get a little nostalgic look watching this, because this is how they used to report on news in these news shows like 60 Minutes. Here we go.
A ton of cocaine, pure cocaine worth hundreds of millions, is smuggled into the United States. Sound familiar? Not the way this ton of cocaine got here. According to what the former head of the Drug Enforcement Administration told Mike Wallace, this drug shipment got here courtesy of what he calls drug trafficking by the CIA in partnership with the Venezuelan National Guard. While rumors of CIA involvement in drug trafficking have circulated for years, no one in the U.S. government has ever before publicly charged the CIA with this kind of wrongdoing. And it's not the kind of accusation anyone in government would make without thinking long and hard.
Let me understand what you're saying. A ton of cocaine was smuggled into the United States of America by the Venezuelan National Guard?
Well,
in cooperation with the CIA?
That's exactly what appears to have happened.
Until last month, Judge Robert Bonner was the head of the Drug Enforcement Administration, the DEA. And Judge Bonner explained to us that only the head of the DEA is authorized to approve the transportation of any illegal narcotics like cocaine into this country, even if the CIA is bringing it in.
Let me put it this way, Mike. If this has not been approved by DEA or an appropriate law enforcement authority in the United States, then it's illegal. It's called drug trafficking. It's called drug smuggling.
So what you're saying, in effect, is the CIA broke the law. Simple as that.
I don't think there's any other way you can rationalize around it, assuming, as I think we can, that there was some knowledge on the part of CIA, at least some participation in approving or condoning this to be done.
There you go. There you go. So that part is not being mentioned at all, obviously by the New York Times. And as far as the court goes, there is definitely an opportunity to have a little bit of wiggle room for the defense. And we'll see this because this is going to be dragging on a little bit. And the judge in the case, seemingly is a Clinton appointee, 93-year-old judge, likes to take his time with a case like this. So this could leave a little bit of a window for Maduro's case, for their defense team to bring some of this up about the cartel that the CIA actively put together and caused this drug trafficking to even happen in the first place. So that's something that would blow the lid off of everything here. Now, we're not hoping for the miracle in court, but it is interesting that charge was dropped, and there's not really much you can hold them on otherwise. You got the weapons charge, and it's going to be interesting. So we'll see what happens there. But yeah, this is how the media spins this and keeps us in our place. I'll end this one before we get on to number 2. Let's end with this. So Lindsey Graham, you guys may have seen this, but I want you guys to recognize the behavior here. It's not going to stop with Venezuela. We understand that there are other targets Trump has, regardless if we are successful with the oil or not in Venezuela. We have set a precedent for how we conduct ourselves throughout the planet. And we're just talking about these other targets right now, whether it's Mexico or Colombia. We're talking about Greenland and Denmark. Iran is certainly a problem right now for us as far as what Netanyahu has been pushing, another attack on Iran. But Cuba has been mentioned as well. And so it's not even just about what resources we want to steal. Cuba doesn't really even have much. But when you talk about failing areas, it's opportunities for us to go in and pretend we're fixing it and bringing American companies in to then make money off of these failed areas. But we have to understand who is responsible for the failures themselves. It's almost like, watch Lindsey Graham's face on this. It's almost like he's not just watching Cuba, quote unquote, fail. It's almost as if he was actively part of the failure. And it's a kind of almost a personal success when he belts out that, yes, listen to this.
You know, one of the things that is happening, and I think you see it all the time, Howard, you've seen it, that Cuba is ready to fall. You know? Yes. Cuba looks like it's ready to fall. I don't know if they're going to hold out. But Cuba now has no income. They got all of their income from Venezuela, from the Venezuelan oil. They're not getting any of it. And Cuba literally is ready to fall. And you have a lot of great Cuban Americans that are going to be very happy about this.
Marco Rubio.
Yes, Cuba's ready to fall. Yes. How insane is that? These are the people, and this is the people who Trump's aligning himself with. At the same time that this is happening, it's kind of sad. It's really sad actually, because you're saying, well, this is who Trump in the Republican arena, who he's aligning with, is people like Lindsey Graham. He's got people like Marco Rubio, Stephen Miller, these psychopaths out there pushing this neocon psychopath behavior. And who is he not standing next to? He's not standing next to Marjorie Taylor Greene, who, while this was being filmed, she was on her last day in Congress, which is very bittersweet, but bitter really more than anything. That she's not part of this anymore is a failure. It's a failure because she was driven out. And you know who else is not standing there? Thomas Massey's not standing there. So if you're still part of this Trump movement and you recognize that Lindsey Graham is the guy that Trump has aligned with here, and these other psychopaths, and the people he's not standing with, there's something really wrong with that. And you have to understand that there's a reason that's happening, and it's not to better the American people, and it's not for America first by any means, by any way you look at it, by any logic to it. This is clearly not America first. Our presidents, our leaders have not, it wasn't Trump that started this. I have to just remind people, Trump isn't uniquely evil here. The U.S. empire is evil and has been. He's just been the most vocal about this. But make no mistake, we are uniquely evil. Our country, our empire is uniquely evil. When we see other leaders speak out, like Delcy Rodriguez, who is now the acting president in Venezuela, and you listen to her speech, it brings a chill down your spine, because we don't have anybody here speaking like this. And I don't mean like, since Obama and the great performance skills of Clinton and Obama and all that stuff. I mean like this organic leadership of inclusiveness and heart and soul and courage and conviction. Listen to her words. I'm going to translate for you. We broke this down earlier today with Fiorella on the Truth Wire, but it really hit me hard. And if you guys missed that, I want you to see that here. And just notice the contrast between the two types. And again, this is not distinctly Trump. This is our empire in general and how we behave in hard situations versus a country like Venezuela.
Al pueblo de los Estados Unidos.
To the people of the United States.
El pueblo de Venezuela.
The people of Venezuela.
No merecía.
They did not deserve this vile warmongering aggression from a nuclear power. Yesterday, I said that it had become a stain on our relations and our history. I've seen it in the faces of mothers. I saw it in the face of a woman, my mother, when they murdered my father, in the faces of the wives of the fallen. I've seen the face of my mother, who also lost a husband, in the faces of the girls and boys who lost their fathers. I've seen the faces of Jorge and myself, when as children we also lost our father, who was viciously murdered. I tell you that those wounds will remain with us forever, but knowing that the loved ones we have lost died for a just cause, for a noble cause, and that just and noble cause is called Venezuela. It's called the independence and freedom of Venezuela. Honor and glory to the men and women who died in combat. No one surrendered here. There was combat here, and there was combat for this homeland. Wow. Can you imagine anybody speaking like that after, I don't know, after 9/11? George Bush says, we're gonna smoke them out of their caves. We're gonna smoke them out. So if you guys are seeing any crack in the fortress at all, we don't know. We don't know. But I can tell you, the more we look at it, it looks like that the Chavistas are sticking together and they're gonna hold tight. And regardless of what is being told to us, the propaganda being told to us on different networks, different social media outlets, it looks like they're sticking to their guns. And they'll go down fighting. They'll go down fighting hard. They'll fight the machine to the end. So that's what it looks like here. But yeah, that was the number 2 story, guys. So keep your eyes open on this one. We'll certainly be continuing our coverage moving forward. Okay, let's see. Before we get to the number 2 story, Citizen Pendejo, appreciate the super chats. You guys can always put up some super chats and we'll get you guys on there. I know you've done a couple here so far. Here is one pertaining to this story. The USA is the narco-terrorist state. See Gary Webb. CIA created Los Sols. Trump pardoned Honduras. John, we saw the pardoned drug trafficker, 400 tons of coke. Maduro's drug charges dropped. Yeah, obviously, yeah, this whole thing is one big setup, one big spin by the U.S. government, by the CIA, and of course, the mainstream media are accomplices in as they lie and deceive us in the reporting. So that's why we have to do this. So thank you so much, Citizen, for that. And I'll throw your other one up when we get to the next story. But the next story is very important. So let's go ahead and get to our number 2 story, top censored news of the week. Here we go, guys. Coming in at number 2, ICE agent who murdered Renee Good served in Iraq with ties to Israel. Huh. Well, that's interesting. Where are we getting that from? Well, I'll tell you where we're not getting this from. We're not getting it from mainstream. And it's also been very difficult to get this on social media as well, on Twitter, because you certainly have a narrative there that is coming out right away telling us that Renee Good was deserving of this, and that the cop was afraid, or the ICE agent was afraid of his life, and she should have listened to orders, all that stuff. So let's go ahead and walk this one through from the top. Let me go ahead and load this for you guys, because we do have some more breaking news on this that came to our attention right before we went live, but we'll piece this through for you guys. Here we go. We'll start with this. Here we are. So Renee Nicole Good, according to Fox News, was part of an ICE Watch group. So that's their starting point, right? She was in an ICE Watch group, the DHS, and luckily DHS is telling us, because they're looking into this, so we know that they're making her look like not credible, because she was in a disruptive group called ICE Watch. So Renee Nicole Good was a member of ICE Watch group that monitors and interferes with immigration enforcement operation. Interfere. What do you mean by interfere? Do you mean protest? Because I thought we had a right as citizens to protest. I thought that was a First Amendment right, but I could be wrong. I don't know. But it seems like she was, the mother of 3 was shot and killed by the federal agent after allegedly swerving her car toward him. Really? Allegedly swerving her car toward him. Well, we'll get more to that one in a moment here. But they're saying right away, oh, she worked for this activist. She was a member of ICE Watch. So that's not good. You're not allowed to do that. Or if you join an activist group, be prepared to be murdered at any time. That's basically the message Fox News is telling us. So, and they're also saying that she moved her car towards the agent. Again, we'll get to that in a second, but that's what Trump and the rest of the administration is calling this a self-defense move by the ICE agent. Interesting that they could conclude that right away, because this came out immediately that this was they determined this was the case. So, this group called ICE Watch, apparently they monitor, they track, they interfere and oppose ongoing federal immigration enforcement operations. The group is present in multiple sanctuary cities across the country. So are you implying that we don't want any accountability toward ICE? They shouldn't have any accountability at all? Or do you think they have accountability and we don't need ICE Watch because there's plenty of accountability in place already? We don't need you. Thanks for your good intention, but we don't need it. We have plenty of those safeguards in place for this ICE entity. Well, that's not true, as you guys know. There is no entity in place. That's why you need groups, activist groups. So there you go. That's their starting point for how they are covering this. Let's for those that don't know the video itself, let's just go ahead and throw that up. This was the one that people are dissecting, having a lot of arguments about right now. You guys could probably see it all over your social, whatever. If you're on Facebook, you're on Twitter, you're on any other social media platform, you're going to see this thing. And this is a slow down version, just so you can see. This was the first thing that people saw, and this is where they were making their opinions from. In fact, I made the case with Fiorella on Truthwire earlier today that we're all watching the same footage, right? We're all watching the same footage. I'll play that again. And people have determined what they're seeing on their own. They don't actually need Fox News to give you a smear piece on Renee Good. You're just going to do it yourself because you're already wired to say, look at this cop. Look, yeah, you got to defend yourself. When you become an agent or a Fed or a cop, you're naturally a scared person. We know that, right? You fear for your life all the time. It's kind of a thing. So if you believe that you have to have a fear for your life to sign up to be a hero, if that's something you've already been programmed to think, then obviously you're going to think, how dare this person in this car, this vehicle that's actually a lethal weapon, how dare you make this cop's heart rate, the rate of heart rate move up? How dare you cause his blood pressure to raise? He's a fragile human being. He's extremely fragile. He went through the screening to be an ICE agent, and one of the requirements is that you are very fragile. You're scared easily. You're trigger happy, and you don't really act heroically, because the definition of heroism is where you put your life in danger for the betterment of the people you're supposed to protect. So we all know that if you believe that to be untrue, then you're obviously going to think that this woman should never have even been in that car in the first place. You don't talk back to an ICE officer. You don't do anything out of line. You do exactly what they tell you, and that's it. And they don't, by the way, they don't have to identify themselves, and that's totally cool too, because they're the good guy. They don't have to follow the rules. So this is the part that's very interesting, that we all watch this thing and we come to different conclusions. So I thought that was very interesting. But let's look at the initial, and I'm going to get to the new thing that broke, because there's a new footage out now. We'll play that in a second, but just to remind you guys, the initial response from Kristi Noem, which is absolutely just disgusting, that she could say this right away and have this entire thing, this entire case determined all the fault of this horrible activist who should never have been there at all in the first place. And that poor cop, that poor ICE agent.
About a shooting that we just had in Minneapolis, Minnesota. It was an act of domestic terrorism. What happened, it was our ICE officers were out in an enforcement action. They got stuck in the snow because of the adverse weather that is in Minneapolis. They were attempting to push out their vehicle, and a woman attacked them and those surrounding them and attempted to run them over and ram them with her vehicle. An officer of ours acted quickly and defensively shot to protect himself and the people around him. And my understanding is that she was hit and is deceased. We're continuing to gather more information, but this goes to show the assaults that our ICE officers and our law enforcement are under every single day. These vehicle rammings are domestic acts of terrorism. We're working with the Department of Justice to prosecute them as such. We will continue to protect our ICE officers.
We'll continue to protect our ICE officers. They're the ones that need protection, not the people that they are harassing and terrorizing. And if you're in your car, you've already broken the law. According to Kristi Noem, you're in a vehicle that technically is a danger. It's a lethal weapon. So you are already a threat to these ICE agents. So if you're in your car and an ICE agent approaches you, you're already committing a crime. The crime of being in a car and you're making their heart rate start to rise. And that's not good. You don't want ICE agents' heart rates rising because, as we know, you get the job when you can prove that you are a very insecure, vulnerable person that gets afraid very, very easily. That's part of the requirements. So obviously I'm being facetious here, but this tweet, this is the worst of all, because Trump is telling us everything opposite of what we've seen in the clip. And he's telling us up front, I have just viewed the clip of the event which took place in Minneapolis. It's a horrible thing to watch. The woman screaming was obviously, you could just tell she was obviously professional. When you say professional agitator, you mean that she gets paid, that's her job, that she gets a paycheck. And it's an actual profession. Well, that's good that you have a keen eye for that, President Trump, that you can see that. And that the woman driving the car was disorderly, obstructing, resisting, all this, then violently, willfully, viciously ran over which we're looking at that same video. You're saying she viciously ran over the ICE officer. That's pretty bold. And then to go on to say it's based on the attached clip, it's hard to believe he is alive, but is now recovering in the hospital. Really? It's hard to believe he is alive when he walked away from this thing. The situation is being studied in its entirety, but the reason these incidents are happening is because the radical left, of course. So there's no accountability for the actual agents that you put out into the street. They're just trying to do the job of making America safe, right? They're not harassing, intimidating, and murdering U.S. citizens, which is what happened here. This was an actual murder of a U.S. citizen. So Trump's doubling down. He's telling us that this is a closed case. Kristi Noem is telling us this is a closed case. So why is it, if they looked over all the footage, why is it that none of them, that they all failed to mention the part about a physician on the scene that was told you're not allowed to come and help the victim? You can't go look for a pulse. We have our own people, which they did not. They were barricading the scene of the crime and not allowing a medical professional to help the person who was either dead already or dying and could have maybe been helped. Interesting that part isn't mentioned at all. If you haven't seen it, here it is.
Can I go check a pulse?
No! Back up! Now!
I'm a physician!
Hey, listen, we understand. We got EMS coming, and I get it. Just give us a second. We have medics on scene. We have our own medics.
Where are they? Where are they? How can I relax? You just killed my fucking neighbor! You caught butter in the fucking face! You killed my fucking neighbor! How do you show up to work every day? How the fuck do you do this every day? You're killing my neighbors, you're stealing my neighbors, what the fuck, man?
Interesting that part's not mentioned at all, because that would be enough. Just that, even if we didn't have the footage of the actual crime, that would be enough to say that you're denying people that have been injured. You're denying them medical treatment on purpose. That should be enough, but unfortunately, it's not. And then you have, Fox News doubling down with this type of garbage they do on their little morning show. Just lying for their audience, just lying.
An ICE watch warrior who trained to resist the feds before the shooting, part of a group of activists who worked to document and resist the federal immigration crackdown. She moved to Minneapolis last year, and she linked up with this anti-ICE activist group through her 6-year-old son's woke charter school, apparently. The school boasts that it puts social justice first and involves students in political and social activism.
Yeah, and we're seeing this now in Minneapolis, but we've seen this in Illinois, ICE out of Chicago. We saw it in California, a group called ICE out of California. And Vice President Vance is right to question whether or not there is a much larger...
Before, I just want to talk about her a little bit, too. She was on, so this poet, they told us she was a poet who just panicked. Really? She was a trained activist who is a warrior leader of anti-ICE operations.
The saddest part about this is that as the discussion about what type of person she was, whether she was in a professional agitator trained to come in and disrupt, versus whether she was a poet and somebody who got scared, the fact that we're having that debate, that in itself is the problem. That is not a debate. That should not be a debate topic at all. Because regardless of what group she's part of, or what she was trained in, or who was paying, none of that actually matters. It actually doesn't matter. What matters is that a U.S. citizen was murdered in cold blood. That's what matters. And if we're going to remove principle and say that that's not okay no matter what, no matter who it is, if we're going to remove that principle and we're only going to base whether we care about this person getting murdered or not, and whether we care about justice or not, we're only going to base that on what? On her background and her the people she affiliated with, and whether or not she went there with the intention to do what? To do activism? To do something that is legal to do. No, nobody is saying, does she have a history of violently attacking ICE officers? Is there a criminal history? I mean, and by the way, even if there was a criminal history, that still doesn't matter what happened in this moment. So trying to piece together a storyline where, that's looked down upon. It's looked down upon that you have activism. It's looked down upon that you're using your First Amendment right to protest and to disrupt, which is also a First Amendment right. You can do those things. You might, if you happen to break the law during your disruption, you can be handcuffed and go to jail, and then you have the right to defend yourself in a court. You don't have a right to be murdered in cold blood. So the fact that we're having the wrong discussion, that is the problem, and that's the point. That's why the Fox people sit around talking about what kind of person she was, saying her son was woke, all this garbage language that should have nothing to do with this, and we should be talking about the physician that was unable to get to her to try and save her life. We should be talking about that. We should be talking about where is this agent right now. Okay, well, let's get to the ICE agent himself, because that's the censored part of the news. Okay, this is important. This is new footage that came to light just within an hour or two ago. I know I saw some people go live on this footage right away when they saw it, and they said this is worth an entire live show just to cover this clip. I'm not going to give this clip as much credence, but let's watch it. If you guys don't know what I'm talking about, this just kind of started making the rounds. New footage from the point of view, and we knew this was coming because we know that the ICE agent had his cell phone up and was recording. So this is now our opportunity to see it from his camera phone's point of view. The actual murderer of Ashley Good, his camera phone. Watch this if you haven't seen it yet, and we'll talk about it.
don't change our plates every morning, just so you know. It'll be the same plate when you come talk to us later. That's fine. U.S. citizen, former fucking veteran. You want to come at us? You want to come at us? I say go get yourself some lunch, big boy. Go ahead.
Out of the car. Get out of the fucking car. Get out of the car.
Oh! Okay. Okay. So let's do this. Let's back this up just a bit. So what's happening here, and you see her, there she is. Let's get to this part here. So hold on, let me grab, okay. So that's her wife, I believe, that got out of the car. It looks as if that's been the assignment, was that they were like, let's bring the activism, let's bring the harassment, which again is your legal right. But when I'm trying to get to this part here. Okay, there she is. So that's her face. She's smiling. She's saying, what is she? She's saying, I don't wish anything harm on you. That's key right here. So what she's going to do is she's turning. Do you see how she's turning the steering wheel? When he's saying get out of the car, she's turning the steering wheel in the direction that would move the car away. She's trying to escape. It's as clear as day that she's trying to escape. Now, when I saw people sharing this thing and saying that because of that impact sound or that noise, that's a definite proof that she hit him. I don't think that's definite proof at all. I think that right at the moment that he drew that first shot, that might be the noise we're hearing is the noise of that first shot. And the jerk in the camera is the jerk you make when you make the shot. And there's certainly an audio response to that. So definite proof that he was hit, I don't agree with that. Definite proof. No way. Not, and especially not after seeing the initial footage of where his feet were placed when she made the turn. But we know that 3 shots were fired. Let's watch this one more time. Notice her demeanor, her smiling, her trying to cooperate. Her wife seems a little more in a confrontational mode, but again, not breaking the law. It's the activism that is part of our right, whether you agree with it or not. It's your right as a First Amendment American citizen, U.S. citizen. You have the right to protest. Okay, so neither of these two are breaking the law. And by the way, the first car that went by before this happened, as the cops walking up, the ICE officers walking up, the first car goes by. She's waving the next car by. So this is not a roadblock at this point. So I want to be clear on that. So this footage, to me, in my opinion, is it actually incriminates the ICE officer even more. But let's watch it again for yourself, and we'll make up our own mind here. I'm not mad at you.
That's okay. We don't change our plates every morning, just so you know. It'll be the same plate when you come talk to us later. That's fine. U.S. citizen, former fucking veteran. You want to come at us? You want to come at us? I say go get yourself some lunch, big boy. Go ahead.
Out of the car. Get out of the fucking car. Get out of the car.
Oh! Boom, boom, boom. So those are your three shots. Boom, boom, boom. And she says, and he says at the end, fucking bitch at the end. Boom, 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 as he just murdered her. So I don't know if it's definite proof of impact. I don't know if it's definite proof of impact. It might be suspicion of impact, but I don't believe this helps the ICE agent at all. But he probably would have had this out earlier than not, if it was something that could make the case. But as Trump demonstrates in his tweet, and as Kristi Noem demonstrates, they can say whatever they want, really. They can really say whatever they effing want, and that'll be the case. That'll be true. That'll be true. JD Vance can say whatever he wants. So he doubled down. If you guys missed this one, JD Vance is telling you that ICE agents are not going to be held responsible for anything. And this is insane. This is insanity coming from a vice president.
Here is very simple. You have a federal law enforcement official engaging in federal law enforcement action. That's a federal issue. That guy is protected by absolute immunity. He was doing his job. The idea that Tim Walz and a bunch of radicals in Minneapolis are going to go after and make this guy's life miserable because he was doing the job that he was asked to do is preposterous.
No, it's not preposterous. Are you kidding? So if somebody's doing their job, they don't have to be questioned. They aren't allowed to be questioned about how they do their job. What the F are you talking about? Isn't the whole thing that Trump ran on, that you guys ran on, was that you're going to start holding government workers responsible? Your Doge stuff and all your other U.S. aid. You were going to go in. You're going to clean house. CDC clean house. RFK Jr. clean house. So you're using with the idea that we're going to hold somebody responsible for the way they do their job? He has a job to do. Let him do it. Don't question it. He doesn't get to be questioned. He gets to keep doing his job. So you're sending a message to all other ICE agents that they can do whatever the F they want. And that's exactly what you're doing. That's exactly what you're doing. And they know this. They know they can do whatever they want. Fox showed us on the same day that this happened in Minneapolis. They were harassing a school. They were harassing students. They're behaving like a terrorist organization. And we have your vice president telling you the audacity you have to hold people accountable for doing their jobs. They have a hard job. It's hard. Don't question. This reminds me, I mean, you could say this to anyone. You could say this about Fauci. Dr. Fauci has a hard job. Don't question him. I mean, what kind of idiot would believe? I'm sorry, but like MAGA, you voted for this. This is what you voted for? To not question people in their jobs? What? So yes, this gives a green light to ICE agents to do whatever the hell they want, like this.
Move! Get out of the way! Get out! Chris, get out the way! Get out the way of the truck! Move! 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 Fuck you, people! Fuck you! Nazis! Nazis!
Notice how the tagline on the bottom says ICE involved shooting. Isn't that interesting? Isn't that interesting how their initial idea thing is to protect the narrative immediately? ICE involved shooting, no, ICE murder. And so this is just the way they behave. This is just how it goes. And we know that there was a shooting in Portland the same day. 2 people were shot in Portland. We got some other ones that have come up. This is just in the last 48 hours. We got some Native Americans that were harassed in their cars. We got so much went down since then. And it's good that we're getting this information when it's available. It comes out. But maybe the climate is changing. Maybe people are going to be more vocal when they see this type of behavior, and there's going to be more as long as this administration is speaking and behaving the way Donald Trump is on social media, the way J.D. Vance is talking, the way Kristi Noem is declaring people domestic terrorists just for being in the way of this terrorist organization. This is indication to me that this is not stopping anytime soon. However, people are gonna get louder about this, and they're gonna get more furious about it. So we are going into the next stage of this ICE fiasco. And American citizens, we told you guys, we called this in advance. We told you guys that what happens to other people happen to you next. What happens in other countries eventually happens here. So Trump's going to go after non-U.S. citizens, after those illegals. It's going to happen to you next. That's how it works. We warned you guys about this. It's going to happen. We're all on the table. All of us. Nobody is safe. until we do something. We band together as the people versus the power. That's the only way. We have to really make an impact as a community, as everybody together. It doesn't matter who you voted for. It doesn't matter your citizenship status. It doesn't matter your skin color. We all have to fight back against this psychopath. It's not just this administration. It's this idea, this exceptionalist Zionist idea. We'll get to the Zionist part in a moment here, but let's look at now. Okay, so now we've talked that through. Let's look at the actual agent himself that did this. The ICE agent who basically hit his face and got in a car and drove away. He was allowed to drive away, and they let him go. But this is what we know about him so far. Here's what we do know about the guy's name is Jonathan Ross. He is the agent that was identified. Hold on, here we go. There we go. ICE agent who shot Renee Nicole Good, identified as Jonathan Ross. This is a post that was found that John Ross in Iraq. And if you guys can see that, it turns out he served in Iraq for a good year from 2004 to 2005. So you have an Iraq, I guess you say an Iraq veteran who trained. And we know what happened in Iraq. We know that we killed a million Iraqis, innocent civilians. So he was part of that. And then he got then what did he do next? Well, it turns out Jonathan Ross, who shot Renee Good, he also served in the Indiana National Guard. Well, what does that matter if he served in the Indiana National Guard? Because he went it does matter because of this. When you ask, did the Indiana National Guard, this is what you ask Grok this, did the Indiana National Guard or anyone a part of it ever train with the IDF? Yes. Members of the Indiana National Guard have participated in joint training exercises with personnel from the Israeli Defense Forces. Well, imagine that. That's weird, right? Why would the Indiana National Guard, Jonathan Ross, famed Iraq veteran, murdering Iraqis in 2004, 2005, joining the Indiana National Guard, why would he be doing training exercises with personnel from the IDF? Very weird, right? Well, it's actually not so weird because we already knew that Israel trains not just ICE, Israel trains police in the U.S. It's what they do. They've been doing it primarily in LA, in New York, in Chicago. This has been going on for years. 4 years. Israel trains ICE. And once you understand that, according to UNCA, it's suddenly ICE's brutality starts to make some sense. From the militarized raids to racial profiling, the playbook looks familiar. What's used on Palestinians abroad is now being used on migrants in the U.S. Not just migrants, U.S. citizens, everybody. And that's how Zionism works. We know that Israel also goes after their own. Anybody who is protesting on behalf of Palestine, even if you're Israeli, they also go after. We know this. This is a fact. There's consequences if you are Israeli and you go after if you protest against the IDF, guess what happens to you? You guys know what happens to you if you protest against the IDF and you're Israeli? This happens. An IDF soldier just ran over Orthodox Jews with a bus on the streets of Israel. It caused over 30 plus casualties and counting. This was on January 6th. Yes, Jews in Israel are murdering each other. If you guys didn't hear this, and you're clearly not going to hear this on mainstream media, but yeah, this actually happened. Here's a shot of it. Came right from Tel Aviv. Isn't this fascinating that this happened? That this would happen at the same time? So we're talking about protesting, and there is a Zionist attitude towards this, that you can be you can be disavowed if you are on the wrong side of things. So you can be a white woman in Minnesota, in Minneapolis, and if you're protesting against ICE, then your humanity doesn't matter anymore. And so this is key in how you this Zionist attitude of exceptionalism, American exceptionalism, Israeli supremacy, the way the IDF trains our police, the way our IDF trains ICE. There's a method to it. So this is what happened. I got the footage now. This is the 30 people run over by an IDF soldier who was riding a bus, went through a crowd in Tel Aviv. There it is. So no, that's not being covered. That's not being covered at all. No. Hold on. I think we might be having a little bit of a jump. So a little freeze frame issue here. Let me see if I can do something about this. Okay. Make sure we're good. Hold on, guys. Sorry. I think StreamYard might be frozen just a little bit here. Okay. I think we cleared up. Okay. I think we're good. Okay. So that's what we know about Jonathan Ross. That's how we know ICE, the reason they're behaving like this. This is how we know that people are quick to defend this immediately. And they don't need Fox or Trump or JD Vance or Chrissy Noem to tell them what to think. They already think these things, because if you see anybody, and it doesn't have to just be an undocumented person. It can be, like I said, a white woman in Minnesota, just on the wrong side. She shouldn't have been in the way. She shouldn't have been in the car. She shouldn't have been there. F her. No humanity, no sympathy. That's it. That's it. We'll end this segment before we get to the number one story. I thought this was a very interesting breakdown that we found here about the ICE and the IDF connection, which is really, that's as far as top censored news goes. This really is the story here. Let me bring this up. Here we go. This little discussion, very, very important. It's actually being done by Lieutenant Colonel Anthony Aguilar and Captain Josephine Gilbert on the podcast. It's called Inside with Sam podcast, and they'll break this down. I thought this was very, very important conversation here.
IDF trains American police officers and ICE officers in Israel?
They train with U.S. ICE, with U.S. Homeland Security, NYPD. And that's what's called through a SME program, subject matter exchange, where our police, etc., train with them. So these National Guard soldiers that will soon be in or are in Chicago have trained with and train with Israel habitually for years. So when you look at all of these pieces of who do we have operating on the streets of Portland and the streets of New York and in D.C., and who's going into Chicago, all components and elements that have trained hand in hand with the IDF or the Israeli Ministry of the Interior, Gendarmerie, paramilitary police.
Absolutely amazing. I also
That's not a coincidence.
They do anti-Semitism training, not just physical training, but brainwash training, basically, for them too.
Wow. They also do anti-Semitism training because that's part of it. Again, this is the methodology of policing. And when we understand the way the IDF polices is you go into another territory that's not your neighborhood, and then you can come in, then you can be in the mindset of enemy territory, and the enemy is someone who hates you. And so you go in there with that preconceived idea, this anti-Semitic idea. You can put anti-Semitism on anything, by the way. It's just an expression. It's not real, because we know the real Semites are the Palestinians, not the Israelis. So they got, it's not even about race, it's a religion. It's about being better than the other people, them being the enemy. So whoever you're pointing your gun at is the enemy. Whoever you're walking down the street, you're not walking down the street of your neighborhood, you're walking down the street of the enemy's neighborhood. And that's why police in this country, they never patrol their own neighborhoods. They're always told to go to a different neighborhood. That's the point. They always are driving to other neighborhoods. The people that police the hood, the South Central, any area here, they don't live there. They live in suburbia, and then they drive down to that area and they patrol it like it is enemy territory. That's how policing is done. And then, like they were saying about the anti-Semitic training as well. So there's so much to this as far as being trigger happy, being the victim, being the one. So it's always the reversal of the roles, where the victim is the person with all of the guns and the power and the immunity. You're not going to be held accountable. And all you have to do is say you were afraid for your life. I'm afraid that this person wants me dead. This person just looks at me wrong. They wish for my extinction. So I'm going to extinct them first. That's the training. So that's really the story here, guys. And let's not make the same mistake as we did with George Floyd. Let's not pretend that locking up one cop, so even if we get this guy, Jonathan Ross, in jail, even if that happens, that is not a victory. That is another distraction. We're saying this guy independently, uniquely was a bad apple, and we're not going to fall for that again. Derek Chauvin being in jail doesn't make the problem go away. It makes it continue, because then we believe collectively that there's this one bad apple in a system that generally works. So you get the bad apple out of it, and then the system goes back to normal. Let's not fall for that again. It's the entire system that needs to be torn down and rebuilt from the ground up. And the last thing from this segment is this. We want you guys, hold on, let me grab this thing here. We want you guys to also remember this, because we have a lot of lefties right now furious, as they should be. But these are the same people who back during January 6th wished for the worst of the worst for the protesters at January 6th. And I think it might be time to look at this a little differently. Also, if you're somebody defending January 6th protesters and now you are applauding the excellent bravery of this ICE agent, you also have to do some soul searching, because this is how the administration back on January 6th talked about Ashley Babbitt. This is what the words that Trump said about her being murdered by the police. And when you listen to this mashup, you might get confused and not know that they're talking about Ashley Babbitt, because you might think they're talking about Renee Good. It's hard to make the distinction in this mashup. Check it out.
A mob, he shot an unarmed woman who was under 5'5", who did not pose a mortal threat to him. And if she did, tell me how. And he killed her. And so just on the basis of those facts alone, I need to know more.
She was killed, and she shouldn't have been killed. And that thug that killed her, there was no reason to shoot her. At blank range, cold blank range, they shot her.
Do you approve of lethal force against unarmed citizens, particularly a 110-pound woman with no warning?
Do cops get to shoot people without a warning? I don't think they do, actually.
That officer, bad things should happen to him. He shot her, and she was totally defenseless.
She posed no mortal threat to anybody, not even conceivably.
They shot a young lady in the face who was the
protesting. They shot her in the face.
And her death is like totally fine because we don't like her politics?
The only one that was killed was a beautiful young lady. She was shot. She had never been shot. She was shot for no reason whatsoever.
There's a woman in this room whose daughter was murdered. No one has cared about the person that shot and killed her, and no one in this Congress has really addressed that issue.
Who was the person that shot an innocent, wonderful, incredible woman right in the head?
A wonderful woman fatally shot.
A wonderful woman fatally shot. Yeah, it is confusing, right? It feels like that they could use the same language for Renee Good as they were using for Ashley Babbitt. But they're not. So both the sides have switched. And that's the troubling part of this, is that the language has switched sides, and both sides are now playing the opposite role, when we should all be consistent with mourning both women's lives being killed by excessive force for no good reason. Those police officers should all be held accountable that murder U.S. citizens, any citizen who are unarmed and are killed in cold blood. This should be the same principle through both. And by the way, I'll add this: good woman is not. It's not relevant. The fact that even back in the Ashley Babbitt, that they thought that Fox News and Trump thought that adding good woman to the conversation was a helpful piece of descriptive language. It's not helpful. It's not helpful to say good woman. It's not. And the reason it's not helpful is because you're implying that if she was a bad woman or did something that some of us would say, that doesn't sound very, something non-related, then the crime would be of murdering her would be justified. That's the problem with qualifying the character of the person. It's not right. That's not a factor. Good woman, average woman, not a good woman. Do non-good people have a right to be murdered in cold blood? Obviously not. So that's what we have to start doing, is apply principle to every case equally. And then once you do that, it's not so hard to be consistent. You have to start maneuvering and doing backflips when you're inconsistent with that, and only apply it when it helps you politically. But you guys know that. So let's just take this as a lesson, and also know the law. Know the law. If you're confronted by a moving vehicle that could be a threat to you, get out of the way. I'm reading to you from DHS policy. DHS law enforcement officers are prohibited from discharging firearms at an operator or a moving vehicle or other conveyance. That's it. Done. Case closed. You can't fire at a motor vehicle when there's no other weapons being threatened at you. You can't do it. You just can't do it. He did it, and there should be consequences. That's it. That's it. Let's just. It's plain and simple. That's it. Okay. All right, guys. The moment you've been waiting for. Actually, let me make sure. I think we got a couple more comments here. Just want to throw these up here. We have. Oh yeah, okay. We got a couple more from Citizen Pendejo. Yes, this is. We didn't have time to cover the Portland one, but yes, Renee Good shooting happened at 9:30 Eastern. Portland's happened at 16:24 Eastern. Twitter withheld the info for hours until they felt they had no choice. Yes, of course, there's suppression of information, and Elon has to be very meticulous with how he allows information to get out, and it does go through a screening process. So I'm not surprised at all if that checks out, Citizen, that it was suppressed for hours. I'm not surprised at all. I'm not surprised at all. And can I also say this? Can I also say one more thing? When we talk about Twitter and Elon and how he behaves, I don't have it in front of me, but Elon did a horrible post about this where he said something, I'm just paraphrasing, but Elon said that the radical left needed Renee Good to be a white woman U.S. citizen. Needed. and that they're secretly applauding it. That is such a condescending remark, but it's also a very telling one. So Elon knows. He says that awful condescending remark, but it's based on some truth to the point that if your job is to defend this administration, if your job is to defend the powerful, which is Elon's job, which is why he's withholding tweets about this, because he has people to protect. He's got the powerful donor class in his class, the people that control him and his billions and billions of dollars. He has to protect that. So of course he's going to reveal in this critique, in this very harsh and inappropriate assessment of the radical left, what he's admitting to in that tweet is he's saying, we don't look so good right now. And if I were on if I were on the other team, I'd be cheering right now, because it's making the narrative of law and order with total impunity. It's making that narrative fall apart at the seams. And that's what he's actually saying. But yeah, I appreciate you, Citizen Pendejo, as usual. I think you got one more out here. Do you share this view, Matt, the anti-Zionist? I'm not sure which one you're speaking of, which view. I'm obviously I'm anti-Zionist, but what I wonder. I'm not sure your reference there, but obviously we're anti-Zionist here on the homelessness. Obviously. Okay, thanks for that. It's time for the moment you guys have been waiting for. We're going to head to the number one story of the week, top censored news of the week. Coming in at number one. Oh, it's a good one. How can we beat the last two? I don't know. It's be hard to beat the last two, but coming in number one, Mossad openly admitted to backing and agitating anti-government protests in Iran. What's going on in Iran? Because the theme today has been protests. The theme today has been protests. Fake ones, real ones, spins, picky choosy. Whose side are we on? Are we on the side of the protesters? Are we not? That's been the theme today. That's certainly been the theme. Well, here's Trump contradicting himself yet again with any principle, his stance on Iran and the protesters in Iran. If Iran shoots, obviously, and violently kills peaceful protesters, which is their custom, the USA will come to their rescue. Interesting timing there, Trump. We are locked and loaded and ready to go. Thank you for your attention to this matter, President Donald J. Trump. What does he mean? We're going to come to the rescue of Iranian protesters if they get shot and violently killed by their state? That's interesting, because obviously goes without saying we don't apply the same principle here, which means it's not principle, it's political. And that's what this is, right? That's what this is. Okay, so let's go ahead and this was Trump on tape talking about these protesters. So what's actually going on here? Well, let's see here's Trump's spin on it.
Start killing people, which they tend to do during their riots. They have lots of riots. If they do it, we're going to hit them very hard.
Now, dozens have been killed. I know you don't do red lines, but have you communicated to them what that limit of your patience is?
Well, some have been killed by, problems of crowd control and other things. We're watching it very closely. The crowds are so large, there's been a stampede. There's been 3 stampedes, and people have been killed and I'm not sure I can necessarily hold somebody responsible for that. But they know, and they've been told very strongly, even more strongly than I'm speaking to you right now, that if they do that, they're going to have to pay hell.
Do you have
So no, none of that's true. That actually didn't happen. And there was just videos circulating where they were trying to show us that these protesters were being attacked, being by the state, by the state of Iran. So it's this push of Islamophobia justifying our behavior of going after Iran. That's the whole point. So you create this theater in which you try to demonstrate to Western audiences, Western civilians, that Iran people are they are in need, just like Venezuela, right? That just like Venezuela, Iranians need our help. They're hoping we just come in and save them from their horrible dictatorship. So this is the same playbook all over again. Well, Drop Site News gives us the actual story. This is a pro-government rally. It was massive. It took place in Iran on January 6th, where thousands of participants gathered to show support for Iran's Islamic establishment and government. State-aligned media and local reports said the crowd assembled under the slogan, "Until the last breath for Iran," to express unity with the Islamic Republic's leadership and reject what officials described as foreign-linked unrest and plots aimed at destabilizing the country. The event was framed by authorities as a demonstration of national solidarity amid a backdrop of ongoing unrest and anti-government protests across multiple Iranian cities, which entered their second week. Here's a shot of what actually happened on the ground in Iran. So we're not going to see this footage on mainstream, of course. What you are going to see is this fabricated story that the protesters in Iran are going against their government and they're getting punished for doing so. So how do they set up this fake punishment? Well, they bring in what we call infiltrators. We see this all the time here, so we know what to look for, right? We understand how infiltration works. And unfortunately, that they give themselves away because guys like Mike Pompeo, I don't know if it's accidental or if he's not thinking clearly, but he gave a shout out to the infiltrators. He gave a shout out to the Mossad in a tweet commemorating the movement against the Iranian government. And you need all the people. You have to thank everybody. I want to thank everybody that was there. I want to thank the Mossad. I want to thank all of the people that would be agitators. So here's Pompeo. The Iranian regime is in trouble. Bringing the mercenaries is its last best hope. Riots in dozens of cities. Now, that didn't happen. It's talking about all the cities in Iran. Big rioting going on. 47 years of this regime. And then making some weird, stupid 47 numerical thing about Trump, which is so stupid. Then he says, Happy New Year's to everyone in Iran in the streets. And then he says, also to every Mossad agent walking beside him. Are you effing kidding me? You're just going to come out and tell us. And, people picked up on this. This didn't go away very easily. Yeah, this is even the Jerusalem Post is saying the Mossad spurs Iran protests. Says agents with demonstrators in Farsi message. The protests grow across Iran. The Mossad posted an unusual Farsi message urging demonstrators to act. So they're saying that this wasn't just like Mike Pompeo accidentally gave out the plan. They're saying that the Mossad is communicating in Farsi, communicating with the demonstrators and giving them assignments of how they're going to conduct themselves and create this theater as instructed by them. So it's all coordinated. And the fact that the Jerusalem Post puts this out just tells me that they don't really think they have anything to hide, because they have their goal is to get us to target Iran and bomb the crap out of them again and create this new war, this ongoing war with Israel to amplify it. And we need to bomb them some more. And how do you do that? You create this unstable environment that needs us to help them and needs us to go in there and save the day. So you know what? We see this thing every time. It's the same playbook, guys. We know this thing. It's so obvious at this point. We're going to assume every time we see this, we go, where's the Mossad? Where's the agitators? Where's the infiltration? We see it all the time. We saw it here with the ICE protests in LA. We saw it. We saw agitators. We go, okay, who sent you? They don't fit the bill. They don't fit the crowd. And meanwhile, you have Trump putting these crazy tweets up about we want to go help these people from their tyranny, because as a protester, you should be protected. At the exact same time, he's saying F you to the protesters here against his tyranny. It's more than ironic. It's ludicrous. It's disgusting. And beyond that, it's actually not stupid. He's not effing up. I want to be clear on that. And I made this point with Fiorella, and we'll end this now. We'll end this. We covered a lot today. This was a big top censor news. So I appreciate you guys sticking with us. But the final point to tie it all together, I made this point with Fee earlier. Trump isn't accidentally contradicting himself. Trump isn't accidentally telling us the wrong assessment of the footage of Renee Good's murder. He's not accidentally mistiming and saying we care about Iranian protesters being killed by the state, but F you if you're getting in the way of ICE here, because ICE gets to do whatever the F they want. It's not by accident. He's not being sloppy. He's not losing his mental capabilities, his mental capacity like Biden did. It's not that, although his health does seem to be suffering a little right now. It's not. This isn't a result of incapability. This isn't Joe Biden auto pen. This is deliberate. It's on purpose. He's sending us a message when he lies, when he just outright lies about this domestic terrorist situation here versus we have to go help people in Iran, and ignoring what's going on in Israel when you have IDF soldiers getting in buses and mowing down Israelis. That's being ignored. He's doing it on purpose because he's demonstrating to us that this is how our empire works. We can say, and this is how Zionism works, by the way, to tie it all back to Zionism. The way Zionism works is you don't have to win good versus bad. All you have to do is win the argument. It's different. You don't have to be right. You just have to win. Remember that. You don't have to be right. You just have to win. That is a teaching of Zionism. That is why we get in these pointless debates about October 7th this and 40 beheaded babies that. They know these are lies. They say them because it helps them get to the goal. The goal isn't to be right. The goal is to win. The way you win is you look somebody right in the eye and you tell them the lie. And then what are you going to do about it? What are you going to do about it? That's how you win. So we have to have the composure, the discipline. We have to have the, I guess you would say, the tenacity to see the long game on this and know that not to get worked up about one lie, another lie, third lie. How do you argue lies if they're looking in the face and telling you something that's not the thing we're looking at? If you're watching a video of a woman getting murdered in cold blood and they're saying, thank God that that ICE agent got away and didn't end up dead himself. Thank God. If we're having a different conversation, how do we combat that? We're still working on answering that question, but just at least the first step is identifying what that is, that technique, that tactic of win over being right. Do we stoop to that level? Do we say, okay, you want to play the game? We'll play to win too. Or do we behave like Venezuela does and says, we're going to stand on our moral compasses. We're going to stand on our principle, and you can win and we might lose, but we would be right and you'd be wrong. And maybe that's more important. Maybe that is more important. Maybe if the game to win is what they're all in on, maybe all we have left is right and wrong. And we can go down fighting just like the Chavistas, just like the Palestinians, just like the Iranians, just like the Americans right now, just like our friends who are here with visas and are here to follow the rules and to work hard and to not be targeted and bullied and terrorized and locked up and murdered. Maybe it's the same for everyone. We'll just stand up for what is right. And that's sometimes more important than winning and losing. That is top censored news of the week. All right, guys, we will be back with you next Tuesday. We start up the show again, the normal two days a week, Tuesdays and Thursdays. Please don't forget to follow us on our socials. You guys know where to find us if you haven't found us yet. This is Rumble, the Homeless Left on Rumble. THL Presents. You can actually find us now by typing in the Homeless Left on YouTube, but this is technically will get you there right away with you use the @ at THL Presents. You can find us there, and follow us on Twitter, Matt Weinglass or the Homeless Left. And we're still trying to build our Facebook page. I don't know. It seems to be kind of like we're going through the motions. I'm not really totally cool about it, but I think we might be streaming right now on Facebook on my profile, I believe. But we'll see if we can do anything with that. Not really too worried about it. But support us at Locals. If you guys haven't checked out Locals, that's kind of cool. We're going to do a little more work on Locals. We're going to be a little more active there this year in 2026. So yeah, that should do it for today, guys. I'll leave you with this, and I'll just say, look, we weren't planning to be here this week. We told you guys at the end of the year, we did our top censored news of the year countdown, and we were done. We were like, hey, we'll see you guys on the 13th. Now we're almost at the 13th, so we will see you guys soon. But we can't look away when we see breaking news. We see what's happening. We have to keep our head in the game, even if we're out taking a little break. Make no mistake, we're still keeping our head up out of the sand. We'll never put our head in the sand completely. That'll never happen. We'll always keep an eye on things for you, and we'll get the information. We'll get the right we'll get the right sources. We'll get the right information, and we'll get the right stuff out to you as best as we can, as fast as we can. Even when it's hard to do so, when we're off the grid, we'll still try and do it for you. So that's it, guys. I hope you had a good 2025. I know this year started out already rough to begin with, but that's what we signed up for here, I guess, and that's what. Just be prepared for another insane year. So the one week in the books, that should do it, guys. I'm going to leave you with this. I love this little this video made the rounds. This dude doing a little funny sketch about his neighborhood, about his street, and behaving like Trump. Behaving like the U.S. empire, happens to be Trump right now, behaving like the U.S. empire, and how we go around and make decisions about our neighbors because it's for the betterment of the neighborhood. It's pretty ridiculous, but this dude is kind of exposing how ridiculous our foreign policy actually is and has been pretty much our entire lives. So thanks to Trump for being so loud about it, because it's so obvious now. If you didn't see it before, you got to see it now. So that should do it for today. Power to the people, free Palestine. Always go out there with courage, conviction, and principle. We'll see you guys on Tuesday. Homeless Left, non-tribal approach to news. One more time, power to the people, free Palestine. We're out.
A raid on my neighbor Tom's house. He put up quite a fight, but we got through, and he's in custody. I haven't liked what he's been doing over there for a while now, so I've decided to run his house myself. He leaves his Christmas lights up too long. He never trims his avocado tree that hangs over my fence, and I believe he's running fentanyl out of there. I can't prove the last one, but it makes sense. I've seen him speak Spanish. I got rid of the wife as well. I didn't really have a problem with her, but we did do a 4th of July block party, and she brought empanadas, so better safe than sorry. I've got them at a Residence Inn a couple towns over. I've been using his home as my own little man cave. Pretty great. It turns out he has a fantastic wine cellar that I have tapped into extensively. Anyway, I'll be running his home until a time when I can have a safe, proper, and judicious turnover to some other guy, which probably won't be happening soon. And just a heads up, I plan to take over some other neighbors' homes as well. Phil, across the street, has a pretty cool car I'd like to be in charge of. And Alex, who lives catty corner from me, has a wife who's a yoga instructor. Be taking that one soon. Again, doing it for the good of the neighborhood, so stay tuned.